Racism can hurt people both mentally and physically. It's a form of bullying and can make people feel they don't belong, isolated, and can affect the person's health.
Why is it important to show racism the red card?
So I think it's important to show racism the red card because everyone in our community deserves to have equal rights, and so it's important to show racism the red card because we need to educate other people not only on what racism is but how we can stop it from occurring in the community.
How do you show racism the red card?
I try to show racism the red card every day by setting an example to the people that I interact with in my personal life and in school, by showing them that racism has absolutely no place in treating everyone as equally and as fairly as they deserve.
Department to show racism the red card.
We are doing a lunch club that every pupil is welcome from first year to sixth year to reflect about their experiences with racism and how can we become better allies.
Okay. So in history we cover the S2 civil rights course, and in that we're always making links between racism of what the black Americans experienced in the 19th and 20th century, but we try to make links to how that affects us in the world today. We think about the Atlantic slave trade as well, and we make links between what's happened in the last couple of years with the kind of Black Lives Matter and how this ties in with what we learned in the past. So we're always trying to do that with all different topics in history, trying to make links to the current day, and racism, unfortunately, is one of the key things that comes up time and time again, but we think it's very important that we try to highlight this, and Mr. Bird in the department has actually made lessons specifically for that. One of the lessons he's doing is racism in football and the history of that, so we're always trying to keep it up to date, but sadly it's a topic I wish we didn't have to talk about, but I think it's important that we do.
So why is it important to show racism the red card?
The reason it's important to show racism the red card in science is to make sure everyone feels safe, welcome, and that they can receive the best education that they all deserve.
Why is it important to show racism the red card? Racism should always be called out when you can see it. Whether it's obvious in your face or it's, not so obvious and people are being a bit sly about it, you should always show it out, because if you don't, it's like you're giving permission for it to happen, like it's okay, and it's never ever okay to be biased against anybody for anything.
How do you show racism the red card?
I ensure that all pupils under my care are included and treated with respect, and if I do notice or hear any incidents of racism, I refer them on to my faculty head.
Is it important to show racism the red card?
It's important to show racism the red card because at the moment not everybody has the same opportunities, and we need to make sure that we have an equal society. To do that, we need to tackle racism.
So why is it important that we do show racism the red card? And I think it's important for us to understand our responsibility in standing up for what is right, for acknowledging the damage that racism can do, and not being a bystander for racism in our society. So how does racism affect people? When we talk about bullying, quite often we do the analogy where we show the piece of paper and we crumple it up, and even when we put things right, that piece of paper is still crumpled. And it's the same with racism. We need to understand that our words and what we say in person, what we say in social media, has an impact on others, and it's about educating everybody to what that means and what racism means in our society and what it means to be anti-racist in society.
I believe racism affects people, their idea of their own identity. It can make them feel isolated and being picked on for something that it's out with their control. Probably would make them feel control of the kind of environment that they stay in. So I think racism in the 21st century, to me, is mind-boggling. Why people would pick on someone for the colour of their skin or whatever, and I firmly believe that we are, as a community and society, need to stamp it out.
Why is it important to show racism the red card?
We feel that this is particularly important because people have to ensure
that they understand that they feel safe and that they feel included within our school community, and that is really, really very important for us. We also want to make sure that people know that racism will not be tolerated. Tying in with our school values of tolerance, we have to ensure that all pupils, no matter what their race is or other characteristics that they have, that they feel included as part of our school community. And therefore, showing racism the red card just ensures that we are bringing attention back to this and that people are aware that there are certain behaviours that we absolutely will not tolerate.
What are you doing within your groups to show racism the red card?
So what we're doing is that we've just had year group assemblies last week. We spoke about the idea that racism, amongst other things, will not be tolerated within our school community at all. In order to ensure that people feel confident that if there is any issues with racism that they identify, that they can come and report those issues. We're also encouraging other people not to be bystanders, because whether they're taking part in racist incidents themselves or whether they are watching it happen, those things are kind of just as bad as each other. So we want people to have confidence that we will deal with racist issues.
As the head teacher of St Mungo's High School, it's really important to me that every young person in our school feels that they belong and that they are safe. Our school values are love, compassion, tolerance and respect. And it's not just enough to not be racist, we have to be anti-racist. We have to practice our values, and we have to make sure that every person in our schools feel that they belong and that they are supported and they are part of our school. And that is why we have to show racism the red card.